A single bottle of champagne, one that costs the club less than $40, gets carried through the crowd with sparklers on top and sells for $4,000. Nobody at that table blinks. Nobody asks why. And that moment right there, more than any DJ booth or dance floor, is the entire nightclub business compressed into one transaction. Tonight we're going inside that business, using one real club as our guide, because the numbers behind the velvet rope are stranger than almost anyone outside the industry realizes. Let's use LIV, the nightclub inside the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami Beach, as our case study. At its peak, industry reporting placed its annual revenue somewhere north of $80 million, making it one of the highest-grossing nightclubs on the planet. That number sounds almost fake for a business that's really just a room with speakers and a bar. So how does a nightclub get from 0 to 80 million? And more importantly, why do most clubs trying to copy that formula end up bankrupt within 2 years instead? It starts with a number that stops most people before they even open the door. Building a club at LIV's level, or anything close to it, requires somewhere between $1 and $3 million before a single guest walks in. That covers the lease deposit, a sound system that alone can run past $200,000, a lighting rig, custom furniture, and in cities like Miami, New York, or Los Angeles, a liquor license that can cost anywhere from $50,000 into the hundreds of thousands, depending on how limited the city makes them. Every dollar of that gets spent before the business has earned a single cent. Most new owners don't fully grasp that until the money's already gone. Once the doors do open, the real business model reveals itself, and it has almost nothing to do with alcohol. A nightclub sells access. It sells the feeling of being somewhere important, and that feeling is worth an enormous markup. A vodka that costs the house $2 a pour sells for $15. A table with bottle service, like the one we just watched sail through the crowd, can carry markups close to 2,000%. On a hot Saturday, a club like LIV could pull in well over $100,000 in a single night. Multiply that across 50 weekends a year, and the $80 million figure stops sounding impossible. But here's the catch nobody explains before you sign the lease. Revenue and profit are two very different animals in this business. Prime nightlife real estate in a city like Miami can cost $40,000 to $60,000 a month in rent alone before a single drink is sold. Security is non-negotiable in a room packed with hundreds of people and alcohol, and a serious team can run tens of thousands a month. Insurance for a venue serving liquor to large crowds routinely runs into 6 figures a year. And then there's talent. A relatively unknown DJ might cost a few $100s a night. A headline act, the kind that actually pulls a line around the block, can cost $50,000 or more for a single appearance. Suddenly, that $4,000 champagne bottle is covering payroll, not funding a yacht. Now, ask yourself something. If the markups are this extreme and the costs are this brutal, what's actually being sold here? It isn't the vodka. It's not even the music. It's status, rented by the hour. And once you see the business through that lens, every strange decision nightclubs make starts to make sense. That's why a club will turn away a group of 10 people standing at the door while waving through 2 people who simply look like they belong. The line outside isn't a failure of capacity. It's the advertisement. The longer that line looks, the more valuable whatever's happening inside feels, whether the room is half full or packed to the ceiling. That's also the real explanation behind bottle service. It was never really about the champagne. It's about being seen holding it. A table with sparklers held above the crowd is a walking billboard, broadcasting to everyone else in the room exactly how much this group was willing to spend just to be noticed. Nightclub owners figured this out decades before social media existed, and platforms like Instagram only supercharged an instinct that was already baked into the business. None of this runs itself, though, and this is where clubs like LIV separate from the ones that quietly close after 18 months. Behind every packed Saturday is a small army: bartenders, bouncers, a sound engineer, cleaning crews working until sunrise, and someone watching security cameras to make sure nothing spirals out of control. But the most powerful person in that entire operation often isn't the owner. It's the promoter. A skilled promoter can fill a room with exactly the crowd that makes a club feel exclusive, and that same promoter can walk their entire following to a rival club 2 blocks away the moment they feel underappreciated. Ask any veteran club owner off the record, and many will admit the promoters hold more real power over their business than they do. And this is precisely why so many nightclubs that open with incredible buzz are closed within 2 years. Nightlife insiders sometimes call it the cool clock, an informal way of describing how fast a club's reputation can decay once the crowd that made it famous moves on to the next new thing. A club can be the most talked about room in the city for 18 months and completely irrelevant 12 months later, even with the same sound system, the same location, the same drink menu. The room didn't change. The story around it did. The clubs that survive that cycle, LIV included, treat reinvention as part of the business model, not an emergency response. They refresh their concept, rotate their talent, and stay ahead of the exact moment the crowd starts looking elsewhere. The ones that fail tend to make the same mistake over and over. They fall in love with their own design. They pour money into a beautiful room, convinced that beauty alone will pull people through the door, and they treat marketing and promoter relationships as an afterthought. A gorgeous, empty club on a Thursday night is just an expensive room with good lighting. So what does success actually look like in dollars? For a club operating at a serious level, profit margins typically land between 15 and 25% of revenue. On a club generating $3 million a year, that's somewhere around $500,000 to $700,000 in profit for the owner. Push toward LIV's scale, and that number climbs sharply, though so does everything that can go wrong. This is not a business where average performance pays the bills. It's a business that rewards the top of the market brutally and punishes everyone else just as brutally. So would you take that bet? $2 million up front, a 50% chance of closing within 3 years, against the possibility of building the most talked about room in the city. That's the actual decision every nightclub owner makes the day they sign the lease, whether they realize it or not. The ones who win understand something the ones who lose never quite grasp. Nobody was ever really buying the champagne. They were buying 5 minutes of feeling like the most important person in the room. Get that feeling right, and the money follows on its own. Get it wrong, and no amount of sparklers will save you.